Through this coffee series, we wanted to create a space to talk with our friends over coffee, to chat about their stories and to find out more about what it's like to live in Korea.
So it was just this like, who am I?
몇 주 전에 영어를 소리로 가르치는 코어소리영어에게 콜라보 영상 만들어 보자고 연락 왔는데, 안 그래도 저는 최근에 2013년에 제가 한국에 처음 왔을 때 제가 한국어 배우는 데에 큰 영감 주시고 심지어 제 햄스터들을 봐주셨던 언어 천재 바실리형한테 연락해보고 싶었고, 그래서 이 두 가지의 의미로 기회를 잡아서 오늘은 바실리형과 바실리의 흥미로운 스토리와 언어의 모험에 대해서 이야기 나눴습니다.
그러면 이제 중국 갔다 오신 지 얼마 되셨어요?
네, 중국에 이제 2014년 4월인가 5월인가 이제 그때 갔는데, 6월 갔는데, 이제 2015년 12월에 다시 한국에 귀국 들어왔습니다.
중국 그때 어디 가셨어요?
중국은 전 북경에 있는 이제 인민대학교,
거기서 석사 하신 거예요, 그러면?
네, 거기서 석사 과정으로 이제 들어가려고 했는데, 이제 들어가서 공부하려고 했는데, 중국에서 이제 제가 한국으로 다시 돌아온 이유는 일단 두 가지가 있는데, 첫 번째 이유는 제가 전공을 잘 선택하지 못한 거거든요.
저도 그런 경험이 있어요. 거기 그 언어학은 어떤 대학에서 이제 공부하는지에 따라서 이제 진짜 언어학 그 자체의 의미가 좀 달라질 수 있는 것 같아요. 우선 이제 바실리님처럼 한국말 좀 못하니까
현만의 말씀.
지금부터 영어로 진행하시죠.
네, 그러십시오.
So, Vasily, what is your full name?
So,
please?
my full name is rather long. It's Lebedev Vasily Vladimirovich. Probably something has to do with being in between the West and the East. The second part, which is called patronymic. It's the name of our father.
This coffee shop, we used to hang out here when I was first in Korea.
Good memories. Yeah.
In 2013, right?
Yeah.
What were you first doing in Korea? When did you first come to Korea?
I was always interested in Asia, in East Asian history, in East Asian culture at least since I was 5-6 years old.
Right. Wow.
My father, he was a researcher back in the Soviet Union. My father was doing some work with the Japanese and Korean, at that time North Korean partners, and he always used to bring books back. I saw those books and I started to read them, and I found out that these books, they are kind of different. They're not written in our usual alphabet, they're kind of different and strange, and I started researching this and I was really fascinated in it. At the age of 18 or 19, I decided that I want to study Asia, I want to study their language and their history. I studied Korean language there at the St. Petersburg State University for 2 years. I first came to Korea in 2010.
2010. And was your major Korean language or Korean studies?
My major was Korean language and literature.
Okay. So that was your kind of focus area, right?
Yes. I should also mention that many professors, many teachers, they taught us using old methods, which were back from the Soviet Union. So they used some sort of, North Korean style. They taught us North Korean language rather than South Korean language.
Can you think of any examples that you would have learned differently to me?
Writing. For example, we have word 역사, history. In North Korean, it would be 역사. It starts with ryul, and etymologically it is 역사.
Right.
Really interesting, and that's how I studied the North Korean pronunciation. It was something that was both interesting, but something that you don't see often in real life. 표준어 is an abstract concept that is being taught, but nobody speaks like that. One quick example: the word "you" with ka. It is in writing and in pronunciation. It is nega. It's oi. But in reality, no one says like that. So, for example, people say niga. They use e instead. If you go to say Incheon, you will notice that most of them they prefer saying noga. Removing this e part completely. The way the language is taught and the way the language exists, it's not the same. And if you want to be successful in communication, you need to understand both of them.
When I was here in 2013, I remember you were just about to go to China. So can you tell me a bit about, because obviously originally you said that you were interested in Japanese culture and history.
Yeah. While studying Korean history, I realized that a lot of parts in Korean history have a lot of things to do with China, and not the China we have now, but the China that was there in 9th century. In order to understand that, you need to know Chinese characters, and Chinese characters, they have very deep connection with China.
It's such a 기본 for like learning the sort of really getting into the language. But even that, like you said, even things like the days of the week are so ingrained with the meanings, sort of these kind of cultural meanings that are in Korea, but also in China.
In Russian we say, feel the soul.
Wow.
Understand the soul of Korea. You need to understand not just the form, but the contents as well.
Someone said, what's Joel's 본업 the other day? And I knew exactly what it meant, but I'd never learned that word because I knew 본 and I knew op. And you feel like there's something kind of crazy going on in your head, because in English we could rarely do that apart from with prefixes and suffixes and then basically words that are related to other words. Right?
When you hear a word or when you see a word in writing, which you do not know, but you know the characters, there is a great chance that you would know immediately what this word means without looking it up in the dictionary.
I was really interesting because when I was in London, when I moved back from Korea, I started like tutoring. So I was doing like 과외, basically just listen to a British person speaking, and teach them. And as my Korean improved, sometimes I could teach them in Korean. And that can be really helpful, I feel, because at times you need someone in your native language to say, right, I'm just going to take this word. But what I noticed recently is in Korea, there seems to be, amongst sort of language consumers and people who are learning English, a real desire to be exposed to phrases and expressions and pronunciations in particular, almost the feeling of the way you'd say something from a native speaker. And I was looking at this really interesting sort of platform, this core sound English. One of the really sort of, I guess, 효과적인, most sort of effective things that they do is they have a Korean teacher, and he makes videos where he's taken a clip from a film or from a drama in British English or American English, stop in the middle of that clip when they've said a phrase that he wants to then teach to his audience. And it won't necessarily be a difficult phrase, and it won't necessarily be one that they haven't heard before, the students. The person might say the word table, and he's like, well, how do you say table in English to his audience? And they'd say table, right? Or something like that. And then he'd say, that's not actually what this person's saying in this clip. They're saying table or like table or whatever accent they're doing it. Very kind of dynamic, get online, listen to it, and then sort of respond to it, shadowing the teacher. People think they're learning the sounds, they think they're learning a linguistic thing. So they're being taken from Korean sounds into native English, so British English or American English. But also what's happening at the same time is they're learning that expression. So it's this kind of very subtly revolutionizing the idea of what it means to learn a language. What's your experience of English in Korea?
There was this very interesting, it's an actual story. When I met an elderly person, and he asked me where I'm from, I said I'm from Russia. And he replied to me by asking,
미국 어디서 왔지?
러시아는 아는데 미국 어디서 왔냐고. Sounds like this.
One of the things that I was always told by sort of my students, we learn a lot of expressions, we learn a lot of grammar, we learn a lot of words. So they said confidence. One thing I've noticed with you is when you speak Korean, you take on this Korean sort of gesture.
You need to think in that language. And whenever you think in that language, it affects your personality. It deeply affects who you are. Because when you think about the same problem, the same question in Korean or in English, you sometimes may get two different answers. When you study foreign language, you do not just study language itself. You do not learn a tool. You don't learn how to create some things using a knife or I don't know, things like that. You open a new world, and you cannot enter this world with the baggage you have.
To possess another language is to possess another soul.
Exactly. Yeah.
In one, I mean, I grew up learning Welsh, which is, as you know, different root. It's not a Germanic language, so it's a different root from English. But I wasn't aware that I was learning it as a child because it was something that we were just taught in school. And it's only since learning Korean that I've understood what that quote really means, to possess another soul.
In Russia, there is an ethnic minority called Chukchi, and they have 20 different ways of saying white, 20 different colors in their brain for white. But for a Russian person, there is only one. They see the reality different. Even though it's the same reality, they perceive it in a different way. And when you learn a language, you should also remove all those, let's say, prejudices you had one language. My professor used to say that when you are studying a language, you're studying a history, you should behave as if you are a small child.
Last December, we went down to see my now father-in-law in Ulsan. As you know, the dialect there is quite strong. It's just got something about it that I connect with emotionally. We literally just went to buy coffee. Joel got his coffee and went, 고맙습니다 to the guy. And I think there's nothing more effective for doing that than when you can just see people using that and kind of, okay, I can fully get how they're interacting with each other. So for example, like a really good example of how you might learn something in Korea, typically in English, is go to a coffee shop, right?
Yeah.
And the way they might teach it in Korea wouldn't necessarily be wrong, but it would lack a nuance. It would lack something that can connect you with the 상대방, the person on the other side.
Yeah.
And so I've heard my Korean friends in London, they'll go to a coffee shop and they'd say, can I have one Americano? And I would say, can I just get a nice Americano, please? Just, what I noticed is the same in Korean, right? Americano 좀. I just wanted to hear some of the examples of maybe dialect forms.
Well, since I studied Korean history, I traveled all over Korea, in big cities, towns, and even some villages in Korea, and I spoke to all sorts of people. And dialects are very interesting. It's a very interesting thing. It's a very interesting part of the language because, for example, in Daegu, I heard a person saying "뭐라카노." Phrase "I'm okay." In South Korea, you should say "괜찮습니다." It is correct, but in North Korea, they wouldn't say like that. Like that. "이롭습니다." The word "hello." There is a history behind it. Nowadays, you have this word 안녕하십니까. Before that, people don't say 안녕하십니까. They say 진지 없으셨습니까? 밥 먹었습니까?
yes.
Have you eaten? In villages, they still use this word.
It's a way of showing care for you and also saying, I want to express care about your sort of state of being, whether you're hungry or not. So you've been here since 2010.
Yeah.
What does the future hold?
I want to make a comprehensive study of all three countries, of the whole region, and for that you need to learn the three languages and to understand their culture, their history. I am planning to go to Japan, most probably. I do not know whether I'll be able to or not. I am very fascinated in history. Whenever I touch any document which is 100 years old, I feel that my fingers are tremble and I really feel very passionate. It's strange, but Western languages never fascinated me as much as East Asian languages because East Asian languages are so different from us.
Right.
And the more different, the more difficult it is, the more challenging it becomes, and challenge is what makes me passionate about those things.
And I think that's something unique, but it's also something that everyone is able to engage themselves in, whether it's in a really small way or like you at this like wizard level.
If you understand the context, the cultural context, the historical context, it will be much better for you. You'll become much more successful in linguistic communication. That's what I think about.
Vasily, thank you so much. 대단히 감사합니다.
예, 초대해 주셔서 진심으로 감사드립니다. 예.
Thanks very much.
앞으로도 도움이 필요하시면 언제나 부르십니다.
감사합니다.
예.